good. Just pitching at this point. Oh, I'm in my street. I'm on the hands. Got it. All right, Stokastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Sunday. I wasn't even supposed to be here today, but between Lindquist's suspension and I don't know what Aaron Perk's off doing. He's not getting his haircut apparently, and he's mass multi-entering above the maximums on DraftKings. If you read his Twitter, it's good to be a whale over there on DraftKings. You get all sorts of extra perks. But I'm joined by Matt LaMarca. We have a FanDuel slate starting in 14 minutes. They are going with a 5-game main slate. DraftKings said, no. We're going to go with a 4-game main slate. Thus, we're talking to you all now. We decided to come in a little early. That was an unscheduled appearance because when we made the schedule last night, we didn't think it was going to be like this yet. Here we are. Matt, how has it been? I was in Costa Rica, so we haven't been paired up for a while.
Yeah, I'm doing well, enjoying one of the worst sports days of the year. Like maybe some people like the NFL Pro Bowl. I don't. Maybe some people are into the clash at Daytona. I'm not. Maybe some people are sweating this Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Not me.
I don't think there's any sweat. I think there's some shivering, some chattering teeth. No sweat.
But we'll have to deal with this 4/5 game NBA slate, I guess.
It'll be good. And my wife, of course, the crazy half marathon runner. She did a 10K yesterday, half marathon this morning. Exhausted, took a big long nap. Yesterday it was 14 feels like 4 when she left the house. So she woke up and from her nice long nap today, and she's like, all right, what time's the Super Bowl on? I'm like, no, that's next weekend. She's like, what do you mean it's next weekend? No, I've got stuff I'm gonna make. We're gonna do all. I'm like, it's next weekend. She's like, it's always this weekend. God love her. It was so always you think this weekend until they added the extra week.
I see what you're saying. Based on
I said, oh, we could do this next week. That'll be fine. She's like, I'm out of town next week. What am I gonna do with all this stuff?
Have your own Super Bowl, EMac.
It'll be just me and the dog. Just me and the dog.
Wonderful.
But there we go. So let's jump on in here. We'll talk about this first game. We'll if we have time, we'll give thoughts on the Kyrie Irving trade. That doesn't impact today's games. So we're not going to worry about that. There'll be plenty of time to discuss that tomorrow. But let's jump into our first game here. This is FanDuel only, or it is the single game slate on DraftKings. We have Cleveland. Let me get to my notes. Cleveland at Indiana. Karis LeVert out with a hamstring. It's going to be the second game he has missed. Cleveland last played on Thursday. They play again tomorrow in Washington. Indiana, this is a 3-4 for them. However, they did have yesterday off. Matt, how are you approaching this first game? We have a 226.5 implied point total, or at least when I pulled this information 45 minutes ago, that's what it was. 4.5 point favorite for the road Warrior Cavaliers. What do you got in our first game here?
So I do think it's a good spot to get to Cleveland. Not a particularly appealing DFS slate when you're looking at the totals, right? Only one game over 230, and we've seen plenty of games in the 240 to 245 range recently. So not a ton of offensive expectation on this slate, but this matchup, you've got Indiana involved, who has played relatively fast this year. They're not very good defensively. Cleveland plays at the slowest pace in the league, so decent little pace up spot for them. You factor Karis LeVert out of the equation, and I think it's a decent spot to get some exposure to the Cavaliers. So I think Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland are both viable as stud targets. We have Mitchell as slightly more optimal in the boom bust tool, but also projected for slightly more ownership. So both guys, I think, are perfectly acceptable. Jared Allen, probably my favorite player in this game as a 7K center. I think you can go to Ricky Rubio, who's been a decent little source of value since joining the rotation, coming off 21 minutes in their last game. So he's trending in the right direction. I think Isaac Okoro could potentially be used. He saw a nice little uptick in value. I'm sorry. Chetty Osman is who I meant to say. Isaac Okoro is fine, but I like Chetty Osman a little bit better. We have Chetty projected for like no ownership on this slate, and he's the type of guy that can get hot, right? Isaac Okoro is kind of a dud. He is a 0.66 fantasy point per minute producer. Chetty Osman does have some upside. So he showed that he's got at least 35 FanDuel points in 2 of his past 3 games. So I'm not expecting that, but it's within his range of outcomes. So if no one else is going to play Chetty today, and it seems like he's going to carry like virtually no ownership, I'll take a shot with him here and there.
Did you see that Daniel Tice is now back in the league? I guess is a polite way of saying it.
Yes, I did see that Daniel Tice is back in the league, and good for him. Keep getting them checks, Daniel.
Yeah, I don't think this is a spot to play him, but I did catch a little bit of it like a post game or a like an interview, and all of a sudden I was listening, I'm like, who's that guy with the German accent? What? Oh my God, that's Daniel Tice. And then they're like, okay, thanks, Daniel. And he's like all happy to be there. It's like, oh, interesting. Anything else from this game? We have 8 minutes to get our lineups in. I'm not even going to worry about this one for FanDuel. Does that feel like a loss on me? Am I missing anything big by not updating my FanDuel lineup?
I think you're missing out if you have 0 Cleveland. The Pacers aren't as big of a deal, but you know, certainly like Miles Turner is somebody that I'm always interested in playing. He's averaged 1.31 FanDuel points per minute over the past month. He's gone off for at least 45 FanDuel points in 2 straight. The Cavaliers, obviously a brutal matchup for big men. You know, they're maybe the biggest team in the league with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley down low, but Miles Turner to me is just always in play. He's the type of player that can pop off for 45, 50, even 55, 60 when everything is breaking right for him. So he's somebody I want some exposure to. And then the same goes for Tyrese Halliburton. He's 8,800. I think that's probably a little bit too cheap for him. We've seen plenty of big performances from him this season. He's kind of trending in the wrong direction. He's down fantasy point per minute wise over the past month, but so is his salary. So I think that those 2 players are definitely worth sprinkling into your player pool as well.
45 games this year. How many games do you think Miles Turner has had more than 45 fantasy points?
How many games?
45 games.
Well, the problem with Turner is that he occasionally has those games where he plays like 22 minutes, but I'm going to say he has done that 12 times.
That's what I'm eyeballing it. I can't sort by it, but yeah, it's about 12.
Okay.
It's not bad. He had a 60 point game there.
Just asking questions he doesn't know the answer.
Well, I forgot you can't. I have an add-on, one of the add-on browser extensions on the Basketball Reference, and I forgot I got to download it into Excel if I want to sort by fantasy points. So just by sorting on points, rough proxy of it, he looks like he's got about a dozen. I thought it was a little bit less than that, but there we are. All right. Well, I'm going to ride without anybody. I got 6 minutes to change my mind here, but we shall see. Anything else you want to mention from this game?
The only other guy for the Pacers that's coming up at a greater than 5% optimal rate is Buddy Hield. I haven't really been playing Buddy Hield when the team has been at full strength, but he did score 45 against the Kings in their last game. So he's somebody that I think if you wanted to add him into your player pool, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. He has a very slightly positive leverage score. But I'm pretty much keeping the Pacers exposure down to their studs.
How is he feeling more vengeance than Sabonis in that game?
I think because Sabonis is probably happy to be gone, right? Buddy Hield might not be very happy to be stuck in Indiana, right? Like, what the heck are you going to do there? Right. Sabonis now, he's playing all the minutes he can handle. He doesn't have to worry about Miles Turner breathing down his neck, and he's living in California. What does that guy have to be mad about?
Good times. Let's see. I see a chat not happy with the mouse. I did get a couple recommendations for trackball mouses. Or are they mice? We'll see. People like to laugh. I'll hold this up that yes, I am using the Dell, the Dell standard mouse that came with the computer.
That computer had to be from like the late 90s, early 2000s, and you've just used that mouse for the last 2 decades.
Well, the USB, it keeps working. I keep plugging it into new laptops and they recognize it. So I just keep marching forward with it. So yeah, there we are. My $4.99 mouse.
I think this mouse cost me about like $8. Like it's not an expense, EMac. You can get a new mouse.
Yes. I think I ought to. All right. Let's look while everybody's in here laughing at my expense. Hit the like button. Come on, it's Sunday. We should have some fun. And surprisingly, much to my wife's chagrin, it's not Super Bowl Sunday. So she's stuck with me. Perhaps we'll watch some recorded DVR shows tonight instead of the Super Bowl, since it's not Super Bowl Sunday. But we are brought to you by
in the EMac house.
What do we watch? Like this, we're in the CBS demographic.
Yeah, I figured it. You guys got blue bloods written all over you.
No blue bloods. We're not quite there yet. We're not quite there. But the Magnum PI, although that's now switched to NBC. We like The Rookie with Nathan Fillion. We liked when he was in Castle, so we watched The Rookie. The Queen Latifah, the Equalizer reboot. That's kind of fun. So most anything that's a cop show on CBS, we tend to watch.
Gotcha. Okay.
For those. And then what else? There's a couple other, I can't even think of them off the top of my head. It's been a while. Oh, we watched Hawaii 5-0 as well, but that one's not on air anymore. So we have like 2 or 3 series.
So you like cop reboots is what I'm getting to hear.
It sort of seems that way, doesn't it? Oh, SWAT. So yes, adding that to the trifecta, though, probably most people watching don't remember when SWAT was originally on air, because I was like in grade school when that was winding down. But there we are. All righty. Now we're talking. We've got all sorts of injury news tonight, but we're waiting on it for this next game here. We don't know what's up with, or at least I don't think we do, Joel Embiid dealing with a sore foot. That would have massive ramifications if he ends up not playing. The Philadelphia 76ers played on Friday. They do not play again until Tuesday. This is the perfect island game for him to play, or if they wanted to give him essentially, the better part of a week off, they could rest him tonight. Well, if he's out, again, I don't think he will be, but if he is, James Harden becomes a phenomenal option. For the Knickerbockers, there is no Mitchell Robinson. He is still out with a sore thumb. They played yesterday, lost in overtime, 134-128 to the Clippers. Heavy minutes handed out by Coach Tibbs. We could see some lackadaisical defense tonight. We'll have to see, but it was about a 7.5 person rotation. And Jericho Sims, Josh pointed out today, and Lofty pointed out today on the earlier show, in his last 6 games, he has taken 6 more field goal attempts than you and I have combined.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You love to see it.
That's crazy. Take us through Philadelphia here. What do you got, my friend?
So I'm tentatively expecting Embiid to play. He's been questionable for 5 straight. He's suited up in each of them. He didn't really even need to break a sweat against the Spurs the other night. He played 27 minutes and change. Super active when he was on the floor. He had a 40% usage rate, but it wasn't like he was being pushed to the limit by that vaunted Spurs defense. So I expect him to play. And I think you can go to him as a stud, right? We have plenty of value on this slate now. So there's nothing wrong with paying up for Joel Embiid in my eyes. The Knicks are not the best matchup in the world. They are, relatively mediocre from a pace and a defensive standpoint. But Joel Embiid's been really good recently, even with dealing with his injuries. He's at 1.74 DraftKings points per minute over the past month. I think that using Embiid as a stud here is completely fine.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. We know what we're getting. Phenomenal play. And his some decision-making changes tonight with Denver looking like they're going to be resting quite a few players after they played last night, waxing Atlanta in Denver. So that means no Jokic. And there's also a high likelihood of no Jonas Valanciunas. So we've got plenty of cheapies now at the center position, which makes Embiid somewhat interesting because he also projects as the highest raw median output or median fantasy point projection for the slate. So it's kind of interesting looking to him. That's not how I was going to be approaching things this morning, yet here we are, because the NBA, especially on the weekends, changes rather dramatically. How are you feeling? I kind of like the PRA there for one Jalen Brunson. It was 33.5 when I recommended it as a wager today over on BetMGM at -110. I thought that was a decent number. He's gotten that in I think 9 of his last 12 or 12 of his last 16. He's someone that gets a lot of points. My only concern was he played a ton of minutes last night with that overtime. I think he approached 40 minutes here. He missed, this will just be his second game in the last 5 days. He missed, I lost track of the weekend, I think Thursday. He had a non-COVID related illness, but thought would be he's going to play a ton of minutes tonight. Do you like him for his PRA? And take us through the Knicks here. And what is happening with this rotation? It's shrinking quickly.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that Tom Thibodeau doesn't trust a lot of people and is willing to run his starters into the ground? Who could have seen that coming? Yeah, I have zero concerns about Brunson's minutes really in this spot, right? Like he played 38 minutes in their last game, which, as you mentioned, went to overtime. He played 44 the game before, so it's not like he needed that extra boost from overtime, really. Like he's going to be on the floor a lot. The bigger concern is that Brunson has shot the ball exceedingly well, right? He was 14 for 19 from the field last game. I wouldn't expect a repeat there. And the 76ers are a good defensive team. They're 5th in the league in defensive efficiency. And both of these teams are in the bottom 10 when it comes to pace. So it could be a bit of a slog, especially for the Knicks coming off of an overtime game. That would be my big concern. But as far as like the minutes go, Brunson will be out there. So I think it would be a pass for me personally, but you make a strong case just looking at the numbers, right? Like 33.5 has not been enough for Brunson recently.
Yeah, and over their last 15 games, the 76ers have allowed 117 points per 100 possessions, which is the 8th worst defensive efficiency rating during that time.
Well, there you go.
So that's kind of what had me landing on that over there. Speaking of BetMGM, you guys can get a free month, 30 days of Stokastic Premium free just by signing up for BetMGM. If you're not already there, here's the easy way to do it. You can either A, use the promo code Platinum Sub, or B, the easier way, be logged into your Stokastic account. You don't have to have an active subscription. Once you're in your Stokastic account, if you go onto any page on Stokastic that has the BetMGM button/logo, click on that. That'll send you on over to BetMGM with and this is the important part, with our URL attached. It won't look like that when it sends you over, but that's what it's doing. That lets them know you came from us. And then when you complete the following steps, which include creating your BetMGM account, putting some money in there, making a $10 bet, and when it settles, up will pop a little promo code for 30 free days of Stokastic Premium. You missed the promo code? Don't worry. It's going to also be there in your BetMGM inbox because they have a little insight messaging system there. Your first wager has bet insurance on it. You can make a wager up to $1,000. If you do not win, you will get the corresponding credits in free bet tickets that you can use over the next week. So if you do a $10 bet and it doesn't win, you're going to get a $10 bet credit. You can do up to $1,000. I did that, did not win, and then I got 5 $200 bet tickets. So sort of your second chance, if you will. Sports wagering insurance. It's a pretty good deal. Remember that in most states, the legal age for gambling is 21. If you or someone else has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Not too shabby there. I know you're wagering there in the old Big Apple.
Oh yeah, I got lots of sports books.
It's good times.
I got lots of them. It's you're not doing it right if you're not taking advantage of all of these different sign up promos. So hop on them whenever you get the opportunity, say thank you. And it's the easiest way to, tilt the margins in your favor a little bit.
And we need to do that because they know what they're doing there. over at
They're
the
pretty
sports
good.
books. However, there is room in the player prop market to get an edge. These are not as big of markets. They're not as liquid, and they don't really update quite as in real time as betting sides on the NFL or NBA or even MLB do. So they're a little less efficient. You can't get as much down on them, but hey, if you're doing $10, $20, $50 wagers, this is for you. And you put a couple of them into a parlay, all of a sudden you've made your own little GPP. So it's kind of fun. Check that out on BetMGM. Ryan Nelson puts in a $5 super chat. He says, if you live in Utah or Indiana, Matt LaMarca wishes misery upon your family.
No, I don't wish misery upon anyone, but I'm just saying, I don't know what to do. And let's be honest, if I was living there, my life would change 0% because I'd still just be indoors working all day. But like, for a normal human being or an NBA player, I have no idea why you would want to live in one of those cities.
All right. Matt Kirchman says he called the Gamblers Anonymous line and they said 2-1, he doesn't make it. All right. Well, that's interesting. Good to know. Good to know. So there we are. All right. Are we good with this game? Shall we head on to game number 2/3?
I'm going to dive back in. I think
Julius Randle love here.
Well, I'm going back to Philly first, right? Because
Okay.
I kind of did the Embiid thing, but on this slate, I think we need to go a little bit deeper since there's only eight teams to choose from here on DraftKings. So I think James Harden makes sense as a contrarian tournament option. I don't love him with Joel Embiid in the lineup, but he's only coming in at 14% projected ownership right now. And again, on a slate with a lot of value, I think that taking a stab on some of these more contrarian type stud targets makes a lot of sense. So Harden's also had some huge games historically in Madison Square Garden. So, take that for what it's worth. But I think James Harden has some appeal if you're looking for a little bit of a different type of roster construction. And then Tobias Harris is coming up slightly positive from a leverage perspective in the boom bust tool on DraftKings. He's down to 5,700. That seems very cheap for Tobias. He's somebody who's in the mid 6K range for most of the season. So I think 5,700 for Tobias is cool too. On the Knicks side, I would say that my top option is going to be Isaiah Hartenstein. He is starting to really solidify that starting center role with Robinson out of the lineup. Initially it was kind of, is it going to be him? Is it going to be Jericho Sims? But at this point, Hartenstein has really grabbed hold of it. He's played at least 28 and a half minutes in 3 straight games, at least 26.5 DraftKings points in each of them. And he's still priced at just 4K. So there's definitely some foul trouble potential battling Joel Embiid on the interior, but this price tag has just not caught up to his current role for the team. So he would be my priority option for the Knicks, but everybody else is worth getting at least a little bit of exposure to. I think RJ Barrett at 6,400 playing 40 plus minutes is totally fine. We've seen plenty of upside from Julius Randle. I think as far as studs go, he would be towards the bottom of my priority list, but you can use him, right? Like, it's a 4-game slate. Anybody who's going to play 36 plus minutes is definitely going to have at least some appeal. And then sort of the same logic for Jalen Brunson.
All right. Did you see the news right on time coming out here for us? Ja Morant will be sitting tonight.
Oh, perfect. Just what we needed.
Jaren Jackson value. Jr. is going to play.
Okay, good well, deal. That's good.
But Tyus Jones now becomes one of the best plays on the slate. It is Sunday. We are now playing without a salary cap because that's how the NBA works on Sundays. Let's see here. What good notes do we have now that I can toss some of my initial information out on this game? Well, when I took this, we'll have to see where it updates, but the Raptors were 2-point underdogs. I suspect this may go a little closer to neutral. This game is in Memphis, 230.5 implied point total. Toronto will be without OG Anunoby, who's dealing with the sore wrist. Toronto last played on Friday. They do not play again until Wednesday. Brooks is suspended. Ja Morant now out with the wrist issue. And I mentioned Jackson is probable with a thigh contusion. The Grizzlies last played on Thursday. They are off until Tuesday. I'm calling some of these out because we're getting closer to the NBA All-Star break, and some of the teams are getting lighter schedules heading into that. It was something interesting I was looking at this morning. So I just want to call those out because we've seen a lot of people getting rest, etc. Does this mean players won't get rest? No, not necessarily, but I also think it means if they're starting, they're probably going to play their full allocation of minutes. The thought would be, does this drive anybody to not get rest? No, it could drive them to get rest because then it's going to be a longer time frame between games, right? So who knows what the coaches and the front officers are thinking, but I just wanted to make sure everybody had all of the information available to make some of these decisions here. For me, I'm going to start this off with one of my favorite players in the league. That would be Fred VanVleet. Some would call him Fred Van Elite. That someone would be me. I really liked him this morning. Still like him now, although now he might be a little more popular since we're losing some of the tippy top salary plays here, and people now will be able to just land on him because they are needing to spend their money somewhere, and losing most of Denver as well as Brandon Ingram. Now Ja Morant leaves VanVleet as one of the last standing expensive players. He did not make the All-Star team this season. I'm very sad about that, but he has been playing very, very well over his last 10 games. Matt, he has 3 different 60 fantasy point games in that stretch. He has just been locked in from the field. 38.5 minutes, 20, just shy of 20 field goal attempts. He's knocking them down at 47%. He also is making 41% of his 9.3 3-point attempts. This works out to 27 points, 5 rebounds, 7.5 assists, 2.7 combined blocks and steals. I like him. Now everybody's going to be on him by default, but he was going to be my tournament differentiation play of the night. Love me some VanVleet. How do you feel about him? How do you feel about Gary Trent Jr., a little Pascal Siakam? What do you got for us from our Toronto Raptors?
Yeah, Toronto's interesting, right? Because when they started the year, it was kind of the Pascal Siakam show, right? All his numbers were up across the board. But over the past month, it has really drifted back into VanVleet's favor. So over the past month, VanVleet is 1.25 DraftKings points per minute. Siakam down to 1.06. So it has really kind of shifted there. Now, Siakam is clearly still involved, but VanVleet doing a lot more than he did at the start of the year. So I agree with you. I think that he is a strong option to consider on this slate. You mentioned the recent numbers are insanely good. He had 73 DraftKings points 2 games ago. And this game, well, at least as of a few minutes ago, had the highest total of the day at 230.5. Maybe that changes now, but yeah, I think it's hard to make a case against VanVleet at this point. He's got a slightly positive leverage score here on FanDuel. What's not to like, you know?
I got no argument against it. I think this is pretty good. When we look at the Memphis side, obviously Tyus Jones, I think he's worthy of. I don't throw this out there. I think he's worthy of the lock button tonight. At least 90% feels about right. You got Desmond Bane gets a big boost. You got Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark, Xavier Tillman going to get a little bit of tertiary trickle down production there with no Dylan Brooks and with no Ja Morant. The surprise guy, we don't need value anymore, but the surprise guy, John Conchar, came back, missed about 2 weeks with in the concussion protocol, played 28 minutes off the bench, 3,900 on FanDuel, shooting guard, small forward eligibility. We have lots of other value options today. I still think he is a solid one, though not a must play. What is your read on the Grizzlies?
Yeah, Jones, I do think approaches must play territory. He's really affordable. He's especially on DraftKings, he's 4,200. That to me is a lock button worthy play. All the guys you mentioned are definitely going to benefit. Desmond Bane ups his production to 1.28 DraftKings points per minute with Brooks and Morant off the floor this season. So I think Desmond Bane for sure becomes a really nice option. I think my favorite, though, is Jaren Jackson Jr. I think a lot of people are going to hesitate to click on his name because he was on the injury report. But what we have seen is Jackson's minutes trending in the right direction. He's had 38 and 34 minutes roughly the past two games. And no one sees a bigger boost from a usage perspective with Brooks and Ja off the floor this season than Triple J. So he's averaging 1.38 DraftKings points per minute in that situation. If we can get 30 plus minutes of Jaren Jackson without those two guys, man, sign me up for that. We'll see what his ownership looks like after this next update, but we had him projected for 11.4% ownership on DraftKings. I am going to be way over that number. I imagine the field will like him more now that John Morant has been ruled out as well. But I think from an upside perspective, I don't think there's anyone in this price range who can really match Triple J on this slate.
All right. I see chat rightfully fired up about the potential foul issues for Mr. Jaren Jackson Jr. Did you know, chat, that he is averaging a career low 4.4 fouls per 36 minutes? He has fouled out twice this season in, listen to the mouse scroll, in 35 games. He has 5 fouls, however, in 8 other games. But just saying, his career number is 4.9. He's had seasons, his worst season, he had 5.9 per 36. It's a little more disciplined now. I'm okay with doing this. It's not like there's going to be dominant pivot play that could really get him into hardcore foul trouble. I would think, yes, he is a foul magnet. They can happen, but don't stay away from him. His blocks and steals numbers are just absurd at this point this year.
Yeah, and a lot of the foul stuff is going to be impacted by the fact that he was playing limited minutes. So I don't read too much into that. There's always a chance that he could foul out, but he's played.
That's why I did the per 36. That's why I did
the per 36 are good. That's a good number, EMac. It's a great number. But his last two games, when the minutes have been up, he's had 11 total blocks and 7 total fouls in those last two contests. So that's the kind of upside that you get with him. Does it come with some risk? Of course. I'm not saying you should lock button him the same way I'm saying that you should lock button Tyus Jones. But I think if the field is going to be scared off of him because of, perceived foul trouble or the injury report, whatever, he has 60 in his range of outcomes tonight at 7K. I want to be overweight on him, and I want to be overweight by a pretty significant amount.
All right, that's fair. Totally fair. We've done multiple sides of that one. So, yes, Chad is even more fervent in there. The dichotomy of does he foul out tonight? Does he not? We'll find out. Right. This is why they play the games. This is just like blowout risk and all those other things. Yes, it's in the range of outcomes, but so is having a good game. We will see how that works. Actually, this is a good question from Mike Gray. He's actually got 2 good ones. Clark or Tillman? He says he feels like this is more of a Clark type game going against Siakam.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends for me on who is in the starting lineup, right? If Brandon Clark starts, I'd rather play him. But if Tillman's going to keep starting, then I would rather play him. I don't see why they would shy away from Tillman in this spot, especially since Toronto plays a bunch of centers. Precious Achiuwa is going to play. Chris Boucher is going to play. So I think Xavier Tillman starts. And as long as that's the case, I have no problem going to him.
All right. And then answering his question, hey, what about the minutes for Jaren Jackson? Fair point. And that's what Matt was kind of getting at as well. We're projecting him right now for 30.2 minutes, which works out to just shy of 39 DraftKings points. Let's look at FanDuel. Might get a little bit better on the points, 40.4, because you get 3 for blocks and steals. So there we are. Ooh, Chucky Deuces says Siakam does draw the 3rd most fouls in the league. Good to know. I was not aware of that. Thank you. That is very helpful. That is very helpful. I'm still playing Triple J.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you were telling me that he was going to be 60% owned, then it would be a different conversation than the fact that he's going to be 15% owned or 20% owned, right? Like, if you wanted to me, Jaren Jackson is the type of player that you want to be overweight when the field isn't really on him, and you want to be underweight when they are. So I guess we'll see what the updated ownership numbers look like, but I can't imagine him going from being completely overlooked to massive chalk just because John Morant gets ruled out.
All right, let's see if we've got a projections update. Let's see if we got the old player popularity update 5 minutes ago. So we have Jaren Jackson at 35%. That's the 7th most popular player on DraftKings. On FanDuel, he's just outside the top 10 at 27%. So not for considering we've got 4 games left. That's not too crazy. That's not.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable number. And again, I'll be overweight on that. And it also wouldn't shock me if he checks in a little bit below that. I just think that, people are very scared to roster him, as the chat is clearly referencing. Like, everybody has been burned by Jaren Jackson Jr. in the past.
All righty. How would you like to get? We already talked about the BetMGM getting 30 free days Stokastic Premium when you sign up there using the promo code Platinum Sub or coming in through a link on our site. You can also get 30 free days if you finish top 3 if any DFS contest with at least 5,000 contestants and you have a Stokastic avatar. So go to stokastic.com/avatar, download that avatar, upload it into your DFS site of choice. And when you finish top 3, tweet at Stokastic HOF and we'll get you hooked up with 30 free days Stokastic premium content that is first, second, or third. No ties. You got to be top 3. First on the showdown slate, tied with 500 people, that doesn't count as a top 3, right? Math. We're calling it math. But again, you can do this in the dime, the nickel, the quarter. Doesn't matter what the entry fee is. Just got to have 5,000 people. But we celebrate all wins, large and small. I even shot a little note over there to the Stokastic Hall of Fame on Monday. I had a nice little, I've moved over to FanDuel now. I got second for $1,000 in the whatever they change it every other day between the 20 max and the 25 max on their $2.22 contest. But not too shabby. Hat tip to these Stokastic projections.
Did they recruit you over there, EMac? Did they give you like a big rollout package?
No, there was literally nothing though. I have reached out and said, hey, what do you give me if I sign up on your sports book? Because I would like something. Because my DK, I'm almost at my DK million. So Onyx.
Oh, your million crowns?
My $1 million in entry fees. So I can't play in the low dollar contests on DK. So I would rather have some fun. So I'm saving those. I'm still playing plenty of NHL over there. Our projections are phenomenal. College basketball projections, chef's kiss over there to Matty G, Matt Gajewski. Some good stuff. And then NASCAR tonight. You were saying you're not into the Clash, but I'm using the Alex Baker projections are in my lineups right now. I'm playing 60 lineups in the Clash. It'll be a good time.
I mean, I'd be surprised if it was anything less, EMac.
All right. I was gonna sing a Clash song right now, but I won't. But if I did, I would rock the Casbah. Rock the Casbah. No one's gonna get that. Malakar's gonna get that. Should I stay or should I go? It's another good song. All right. 2 more games to go. We're halfway through the slate, and we've got 36 minutes left. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk some No House Advantage. They are the sponsor of the show tonight. They're also sponsoring the Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock tomorrow. 2.5 hours of nothing but NBA fun. They're all over the place. No House Advantage. Sign up through the link in the YouTube chat here, or the YouTube description below us here. And when you make your first deposit, they will match it up to $100. Used to be $50, now it's $100. Great way to get a bankroll started over there at No House Advantage. 2 different game formats. We'll talk about them in a little bit here. Sacramento Kings at the New Orleans Pelicans. I believe we did get word that Jonas Valanciunas is indeed out. Shockingly, Jordan McLaughlin is in. He hasn't played in months. That's a different game. We'll get to that in a moment. But no Valanciunas. Brandon Ingram out on the back-to-back. Yesterday was obviously, if it's back-to-back, yesterday was the I guess it was an okay game. I mean, they beat the Lakers. That's a good thing there for
everybody beats the Lakers.
Yeah, well, I thought it was just fun to mention it. But no Brandon Ingram. Daniels is still out. He's missed 7 games, but he's still out. And no Jonas Valanciunas. Matt's going to talk about some of their good plays. De'Aaron Fox out again for a second consecutive game, attending to a personal matter. The Kings last played on Friday. They play tomorrow in Houston. What do you got here, and why is Arvydas Sabonis? I can't believe I just did that. Why is Domantas Sabonis, Arvydas' son, an amazing play tonight?
Yeah, some would say he's not an amazing play tonight. He kind of
haters gonna hate.
He kind of fits the same narrative as like a Joel Embiid in my eyes. He's a stud play on a slate with a ton of value, but as good as Sabonis is, right? He's 10,500. I can pay $800 more and get Joel Embiid, who is projected for similar, if not lower ownership. I'm making that move every single time. Doma's great. Don't get me wrong. I love him. I have many rookie cards, as I've said on this show in the past, but he's just not in the same ballpark as Joel Embiid is. On FanDuel, it's a little bit of a different story where he's 9,600 and has power forward eligibility. So I would say that on FanDuel, he is a strong play. On DraftKings, he's more of just an average option.
All right. Just average. No such thing as just average. Davion Mitchell. Do you even want to go there with all the other value we have?
Probably not. He did not see nearly the minutes that most were expecting with De'Aaron Fox out. And when he was on the floor, he was basically invisible, right? He had an 11.5% usage rate, 1 rebound and 1 assist. I need you to be a little bit more active than that, my guy, right? I thought he was okay as a rookie, but he has not shown anything this season. I would rather take a flyer on Malik Monk if I was looking to try to play the De'Aaron Fox absence. He just has so much more per minute upside. And his minutes have been trending in the right direction, right? 28, 33, and 32 in his last 3 games. I think he is the better play if you're looking to go with a value option for the Kings.
So the wings are kind of interesting, and so Harrison Barnes looks pretty good. And I think you could get his rebounding. He hadn't gotten there frequently in his last 10 games, but I think his number was 5.5 today. I do like that. The over on that one. He's going to be steady. Malik Monk has the potential to close. He is totally instant offense, but he could also lose out to Mitchell if it's a closer game and they need Mitchell to guard CJ McCollum. That's going to be Mitchell's kind of calling card, right? I would think. Then you've got Murray, the rookie. I never know what to do with Keegan Murray. Usually just don't play him. And then last, but by far no means least, Kevin Huerter. Secondary facilitator, can knock down the threes, does a little bit of everything. I kind of like him over Malik Monk. All these guys are similar salaries. You can mix and match them on the different sites, right? Some of them get a little tick up on DraftKings because of positional eligibility or salary, and vice versa on FanDuel. But for me, the odd man out is going to be Keegan Murray.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And certainly looking at the boom bust tool, it agrees with that. Malik Monk, Harrison Barnes, and Kevin Huerter all have an optimal rate between 9.7 and 9.9% on DraftKings. Murray falls down to 3.2%. So I think that when we're talking about the secondary options, those are the clear top 3. Barnes is probably, or Barnes and Huerter, I will say, are the safer options of the 2. Their minutes are more entrenched, and they're decent basketball players. Malik Monk, a little bit more of a wild card, but I think that he might have the highest ceiling of the group when everything breaks right for him.
Lurking Trey Lyles. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, here we are. It's Trey Lyles.
Yeah, and he is popping up with just like the slightest smidge of usability on this slate. I don't think you need to go there. There's so much other value to consider. Like I didn't even mention Chris Boucher when we were talking about Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
He's like similarly priced to Trey Lyles, and I think he's just much, much better, at least from a fantasy perspective. And we haven't gotten to the Denver value yet. Of course, we're going to talk about the New Orleans value in a second. Like, it's just not the night for a player like Trey Lyles, right? If he goes off and he plays 20 minutes and he gets 25 fantasy points, you would feel pretty happy about that at a $3,300 salary, but it might not be enough on this slate. So he's coming up with an optimal rate of less than 1%. I don't think you really need to go there tonight.
All right. Joel Embiid is in. We've got the Raptors starting lineup as expected. Van Vliet, Trent, Barnes, Siakam, and Precious Achiuwa. We'll get to Minnesota and Denver, but for those making lineups right now, Jokic, Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope have all been ruled out.
Yeah, and of course, the big Bones Highland question, right? He picked up a DNP in their last game, rumored to be on the trade block. I have no idea what to do with him tonight. I have no idea if he's going to play, if he's going to sit. I think everything is within the range of outcomes. So that'll be an interesting one to talk about.
All right, let's go. And I've got some other questions for you on that game, but let's wrap this one up first. Moving over to the Pels here, we've got CJ McCollum in an excellent spot. We've got Jose, I'm losing track of his name, Alvarado. Alvarado is also pretty solid there as the backup guard. You've got questions in the front court. What's up with Jackson Hayes? What's up with Hernan Gomez? No, not that Hernan Gomez, the other Hernan Gomez. What are we doing?
Cruz.
Yeah, what are we doing there? We just got questions that abound. You've got Larry Nance Jr., who they don't want to run into the ground. Does he see more than 25 minutes tonight? What is your read here? You've looked at the rotations. You've done your minutes projections here. How are you looking at let's start with the front court. There are the most question marks there.
I think we're looking at a relatively even split at center. Right now, I have Hernan Gomez projected for around 22 minutes. I have Jackson Hayes at around 26 minutes. I'm sorry, 16 minutes, and then Larry Nance at 26 minutes. So it's an interesting situation, right? I wish they were all going to go to Hernan Gomez. He's one of my favorite players in the league from a fantasy perspective. He averages 1.2 DraftKings points per minute, and he's minimum priced. So he's showing up with a pretty negative leverage score in the boom bust tool, but I don't care. I'm going to be a fish, and I'm going to play gobs of Willie Hernan Gomez, because I think if he plays 20 minutes, he can get us what we need at this price tag, and anything more than that is just gravy. So, and if you guys can't tell, I love me some gravy. So I'm going to be.
That's not on the beach volleyball
approved
diet. That's not on the beach volleyball approved diet.
Listen, my role in the beach volleyball team is just to set the ball, use them hands, get the ball up for the rest of the guys who are flying around out there. That's not me. I ain't playing. I'm playing below the net.
All right. What about the plethora of wing? Okay, no, let's redo this. Does it matter to you who's in the starting lineup between Jackson and Hernan Gomez?
I would
conceivably, I guess they could both be in there, but I'm kind of thinking they start Nance though.
So if Willie Hernan Gomez doesn't start, I would probably bump his minute projection down slightly, and that would obviously have an impact on how I'm projecting him tonight. So yes, that would matter to me. But I'm hoping that he does start, because like I said, I'm a Willie Hernan Gomez stan. So I do think that it's important to keep it monitored. But yeah, if he's in the lineup and gets to 20-ish minutes, I really like his chances of returning value against the Kings.
All right. The 9 million wings.
They do have quite a bunch, huh?
Herbert Jones had one hell of a game the other night. You've got Trey Murphy the third in the mix, Najee Marshall. What do you want to do with the wings? Because the Brandon Ingram being out, obviously, Zion's been out for a while now. The hamstring. You've got Joe Val, who missing his first game of the season. He tweaked his knee last night. It sounds like no damage. They did an MRI, but obviously they'll give him a game or two off. That leaves a ton of shots, of rebounds, secondary facilitation duties. What do you want to do with these wings? Because I feel like this could be the make or break portion of our slate.
Yeah, I think Najee Marshall is probably the best value of the bunch. I have him projected for the best value out of this group, but he's going to command the most ownership of the group. So a little bit of give and take there. I definitely think that Marshall is a strong play, but like Hernan Gomez, he's a candidate to be a little bit overowned. So, just using the boom bust tool, he's got a negative 6.3 leverage score on DraftKings. So while I'm willing to ignore that a little bit for Hernan Gomez, I'm not necessarily willing to do the same for Marshall. I'll probably be looking to play him a little bit under the field. I think that Trey Lance and Herb Jones, their ownership should be much more reasonable, and they're equally capable of posting good numbers, right? Herb isn't someone that I play very often because I don't think that his real life game translates to fantasy all that much, right? He's like a defensive stopper. He's not really out there to rack up statistics, but on a night like tonight, it could be a little bit of an exception for me. So I would rank them Najee Marshall 1 with a caveat of I think he's going to be overowned. Trey Murphy 2, and then Herb Jones 3.
And then how are you feeling about CJ McCollum? 7,500 on FanDuel, point guard, shooting guard eligibility. That's pretty tasty.
I think this is going to be your chalk spend up guard on this slate, which I think is good news for us who like Fred VanVleet, right? I think that he's going to definitely keep VanVleet's ownership a little bit in check. And CJ definitely has the ability to put together a big game in this spot. He hasn't been, fantastic when sharing the court with Ingram this season, but he saw a nice spike in value when Brandon Ingram was out earlier. So I think definitely he is priced at a point where he can return nice value on his current salary. He's a little bit tougher on DraftKings where he's just point guard eligible, but on FanDuel with the dual point guard shooting guard, it's a little bit tougher to get away from him.
Anything else from this game before we try to parse what's going on in Denver and Minnesota?
Let's see. No, I think
this turned into one hell of a slate, didn't it?
Yeah, it's a classic Sunday NBA special.
Oh, I don't even. It's just where it's pick 'em. It really is. It really is. All righty. So everybody's sitting for Denver. Everybody of note, that is. That concern I have is, what does that mean for Michael Porter Jr. if they're sitting everybody but he's in? Is he a ceremonial start? Is he just get out there and give us 25 minutes? It doesn't appear that they are going to want to run him into the ground, right? This is an accepted schedule loss at this point. How do you feel about him? Does he feel like a little bit of a trap to you?
It is funny too, because you would think like he is the most injury prone of the group, yes. But maybe just because they're still trying to work him into shape. I don't know. So yeah, I don't think he's going to see a huge uptick in minutes. I do think his per minute efficiency will be better than usual, right? He's somebody that he's averaged 0.97 DraftKings points per minute for the year. That number is closer to 1.1 with all of the currently doubtful Nuggets off the floor. So I think that he is usable, but I would not be expecting him to play like 38 minutes tonight. I think that as far as like per dollar options on the Grizzlies, I have him at 5 in my projections.
You mean the Nuggets?
Yes, sorry, the Nuggets. Yes.
Yeah, and we're projecting him for a standard 30 minutes. So he's someone I just ran my DK lineups. And it felt like I was getting a little too much of him. So I'm going to back off on that. And this is one where I feel like it's too much of it feels like a trap, right? What is there to gain? And I have him on half my lineups. We're projecting him for 30%. So I'm actually going to lower my cap to 25 and redo my lineups. I want to come in under the field on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's a chance that his usage rate, gets to 28%, right? Like he's been more in the low 20s this season, but yeah, the minute cap is really what's gonna limit him.
Yeah. All right. So let's rerun those there. I'm going with 95% Tyus Jones. Not that anybody is worried about that, but there we are. Oh, I'm sorry, 99%. One lineup doesn't seem to happen.
Hey, you got to give yourself an out, EMac.
We ride. We ride. Oh, what happened there? Okay, so that's that question. Bones Highland is the next question. Hasn't, he was a DNP. I think they're looking to trade him. That not because it's a malcontent thing. It's they want somebody who can play defense. His offense is perfectly acceptable. But they really need someone who can play defense. Surprising me that they're not kind of showcasing him with that trade deadline just around the corner here. But for me, I feel like he should play tonight, right? It's not like they're going to put him in bubble wrap. What are they really going to get for him? They like to have a 3-and-D guy back. That's like a second rounder, right? So it's a second round pick. So it's not like you're protecting this asset per se and putting him in bubble wrap. And it's not like they really need to expose him because everybody knows he's kind of an offensive first player. I like him. I'm terrified tonight of Ish Smith playing for his NBA record 13th team. Ish Smith. What are we doing now that we're down to the dregs here?
Truly the Josh Johnson of the NBA, Ish Smith. Yes. I am not playing Bones Highland tonight. I am legitimately scared off that he hasn't seen the court in the last 2 games, and he played 4 minutes the game before that. Even without all of the other options that are expected to sit for Denver, they still have a bunch of players that they can lean on, right? Like Bruce Brown will play more of the traditional point guard role, I would imagine. Christian Braun is going to get a really nice long run in this game. You've got Kankar, you've got MPJ, Zeke Naji, Ish Smith, Jeff Green. Like there's, even without all the doubtful players, they're still going to have like a 10-man core. So I don't really see it as a spot where they need to play Bones Highland. And I do think that they don't want to risk him getting hurt because they really want to trade him. So I think if he does play, he is pretty far down on the pecking order. And the field is not really scared of him, at least, based on our ownership projections. We have him right now at 33.3% on DraftKings. And I get it. There's obviously some upside with him, but I think there's way more downside to him than people realize.
What is their rookie shooting guard's name?
Christian Braun.
I kept trying to type in Barnes. So we have Braun at 5.4% projected. We've got
huge mistake in my opinion.
Yeah, I would rather. I'm gonna go with him because he's $3,000. I am going to go 50% with him, and I'm going down to 10% of Porter, and I'm going down to 10% of Bones, just on the off chance he doesn't play. That's where I'm going to make that stand.
Yeah, and I've kind of made jokes about Christian Braun. Like everybody seems to talk about him like he is this future NBA superstar, which I haven't necessarily seen when I've watched him. He's good at a lot of things, but he's not really like a great player. But they love him in Denver. Like they really, really like him. And I think that they are going to play him a ton in this spot. I have him projected for well over 30 minutes. And he's averaged 0.83 DraftKings points per minute over the past month. So I think he could give us 30 plus in this spot. I think that's possible. And I would much rather play him at his projected ownership than I would Bones at his.
This is getting interesting. It's getting interesting. The other fun thing is with all these games going off at the same time, it's the leaderboard's just going to be wild, right? Because there's no real PMR remaining. You're going to
be a lot of PMR in those last two games. That's for sure.
Yes. But there's not the sort of Damocles hanging over with that the late night hammer there. All right, we got 15 minutes left here. Take us through the Minnesota side. We haven't heard anything about Gobert yet, have we? Anything froze? Let's go back. No update on Gobert that I see. Not that we need more value, but if he is out, Naz Reid becomes an intriguing option. A little bit better on DraftKings, where he does have the power forward eligibility.
Yeah,
take us through our last squad here, Mr. LaMarca.
I'm going to continue to assume that Gobert plays. When he hasn't played, it's gotten to the point where he's not that much more expensive than Naz Reid. It's almost like you can make a 1-for-1 swap at this point. So I think Gobert is the strongest option on this team. I've played Anthony Edwards plenty of late, but he's up to 9,900 now on DraftKings, and that feels too expensive. That feels like too much for him. He does have a slightly positive leverage score, so you can add him into the James Harden type tier, where if you're looking for a contrarian stud on a slate that has tons and tons of value, I think you can play Anthony Edwards. But like from a projection standpoint, he does not grade out well for me at 9,900. So I have Gobert as their clear top option. And he's really the only guy on the team that I am primarily I am interested in using in more than just a handful of lineups.
All right. Chat is going wild right now. It has turned into Lord of the Flies there.
Are they all talking about Christian Braun? I haven't been. Everybody loves Christian Braun.
They're saying you got a couple people voicing against Christian Braun. You've got some people getting timed out constantly. We have people rooting for people to get timed out. This is pretty wild. It's pretty wild. 12 minutes to go. I'm going to hit crunch here on my little fantasy lineups on FanDuel. I've uploaded DK. Oh, I better do something about Yahoo. Yeah, I'm playing 3 sides tonight. It happened. Jordan just sent me a little tweet here. This is from The Athletic. It says, associates of Ja Morant verbally accosted Pacers personnel, and someone trained a red laser on them from a nearby SUV post-game, January 29th.
Jesus.
We were in grave danger, a person who was present said. I'm assuming that means the Ja Morant associates were doing something to the Pacers personnel, which just seems odd. How convenient that he's out today. Well, it's his wrist, or is it a slap on the wrist that's coming?
And now you know why I say I don't want to live in Indiana or Utah. Okay. That's why.
The rough streets of Indianapolis. What is in Indianapolis besides Eli Lilly and a couple sports teams? I don't know.
I actually went to University of Indiana for one semester.
Whoa. Really? How'd you get away from and then they realized you were a true New Yorker and you had to go back?
No, it was more like the state of New York told me that I needed to stay in New York for certain reasons.
Because your mom wanted you to be close to home. That's all it was.
Yeah, that was it. That's why.
That's all it was. Where we got? We got 11 minutes left. Hat tip there to Kevin Bonner. He is just joined the Stokastic chat. It's a good time there. Oh, we better give a shout out there to No House Advantage. Remember, you can play over on No House Advantage, 2 different game formats here. You've got your pick'em contest. This is where they have tons of overlay, and you are playing against other gamers, pair versus pair. These are static props. How it works is depending on the size. Like, so for NFL Showdown, Super Bowl, they may go more, but the NFL Showdown, they'll put up 7 questions, or you pick 7 questions out of about 45 player props. You rank them with confidence points. For NBA, it's usually 10 questions that you pick out of about 100 or so. You rank them with confidence points. You get it correct, you get those points. That's how you score against other gamers. You get it wrong, hey, it's a 10-leg parlay that doesn't go bust, right? That is the one nice thing to have. They also have actual player props where you can go against the house. These are dynamic props. You can build player cards of 2, 3, 4, or 5. Go 5 for 5, you get 21x, highest payout in the business, but you are going against the house in those formats. So if you live in a state that is not enlightened yet and willing to take those tax dollars for sports wagering, here's a way to scratch that itch. Check that out over there. We have free projections for both game formats on No House Advantage. Come in through the link below us here, and you will get a $100 deposit match with your first deposit. Who are you terrified of not having tonight, Mr. LaMarca?
Bones is probably the scariest guy that I'm fading from an ownership perspective. I would say
100% full fade, not even gonna have just how many lineups
I like
tonight?
to I'm sorry.
How many lineups are you doing tonight?
I got the full 150, but I like to or as Greg would say, I've got 300 tonight.
That's Greg/Craig.
Yeah, Craig, my man Craig. I like to play aggressively, and if a player burns me, I'm fine with that. And I just think that the field is way underestimating the potential for Bones to play like 15 minutes or less tonight. So I'm fine with taking a stand there. I don't believe in like playing like 5% of a player. That doesn't really do anything for me. I feel like if I get things right, or if he does go off, I'm just going to have him in the wrong lineups anyway. So I'd rather just go full fade. That's kind of how I approach things.
All right. I am playing 5% of each of those on FanDuel just because you said you wouldn't. It's called being contrarian.
It's a personal preference type thing. I don't think one way is right or wrong. That's just how I approach things.
All right, let's do this quickly. I got 8 minutes. I'm going to set a little, let's go a floor projection of 307. Let's put everybody around 50%. Let's put Jaw really needs to be at 90. So we will do that. Where are we getting everybody? Let's do a quick little refresh here of ownership. And we're going to make some magic happen real quick here, Matt. And then we'll talk some specifics of No House Advantage. But this is a chance for you to get your last minute lineups in there, me as well. I feel Tyus Jones at 90% is appropriate. Wow, we're thinking the field's going 40% on FanDuel for Michael Porter Jr. I will go over the field with 60% of Bruce Brown's. I feel a lot more comfortable going with him. Ride or die with Guillermo Hernan-Gomez. This is going to be a fun one. Wow, this is just going to be wild tonight. I'm looking forward to this.
It's a wild slate. I think we've kind of done a good job talking about some of the studs that we think are being overlooked. I think that James Harden is one. He has a nice optimal or positive leverage score. I think that Anthony Edwards is one. So if you're looking to get different, I think those are the ways to approach it. You're going to want to eat some of this chalk from a value perspective, specifically Tyus Jones, but also Bruce Brown and Willie Hernan-Gomez. I think those are the 3 best pieces of chalk to eat.
All righty. Will EMac get his lineups in is the current question. It's in the form of a poll. I would like to see 100 people answer this. Let's get that
I'll
up
give
there.
you a yes, EMac.
Let's get some likes. We need some likes as well. Now the question is, which sites are we talking about, Jordan Klein? Because DraftKings lineups are in. FanDuel lineups are about to be uploaded. It's always it's a little nerve-wracking on FanDuel these days. I'm not quite used to their system. I have uploaded my FanDuel or attempted to upload my FanDuel lineups to DraftKings a couple times. Not going to lie about that. But here we go.
You know what would help with that? A new mouse. You get yourself a nice fancy mouse. It gets the right upload files in for you all the time.
All right. So those are all in now. Now I guess I just have Yahoo real quick. I'm just playing one lineup on Yahoo. Yahoo not talked about a lot. You can basically play rake free over there if you're paying attention. Doesn't mean you always get in the biggest contest, but a lot of times they continue spawning contests up to lock. So that is a site that you can get a little extra bang for your buck, is what they call it. You doing
so
just which sites are you doing?
Our top 2 owned by position. I think that's
perfect.
A nice way to wrap things up. I'm playing on DraftKings, so I'll take the DK side, and you can take the FanDuel side.
Tyus Jones.
Yeah, so for me at point guard, it's going to be Tyus Jones and CJ McCollum.
Okay.
At point
I like
guard.
that. That it also mirrors what I have.
At shooting guard, it is Bruce Brown and Christian Braun.
I had to goose Braun to get him up there, but for me, it is Bruce Brown at 55%, Desmond Bane, but he's multi-position eligible at 50%. That's where my cap was. And then Christian Braun at 50%. And I increased his projection so I would get him.
So at small forward, Bruce Brown is the answer there too. But since
Bruce,
I said
Bruce
him at
Braun?
small forward, yeah, Bruce Braun. You can combine both guys. You can play them at the same time. It's awesome. The real answer for me, taking Brown out of the equation, is Anthony Edwards and Najee Marshall. I ended up with more Edwards than I would have imagined, just because small forward is kind of a dumpster fire, right? Like I have Edwards projected for like 8 more raw points than anybody else at the position. And on a slate where value is kind of unlimited, getting the guy who's just going to be the high scorer at the position becomes a appealing proposition. So I ended up having more of him than I expected.
So here's an interesting one. Would you go Guillermo Hernan-Gomez center only on Yahoo, or would you go with Jackson Hayes, who is power forward, gets you that little extra flexibility?
I prefer Willie. Free Willie.
Oh, thank you. From Fresno, cheapest center on DK. Who you got, LaMarca?
Willie Hernan-Gomez at the absolute minimum. You can't get any cheaper than that.
And then the other question is it okay to play Bane and Tyus together? Yes, because I have 50% Tyus or Bane, and I've got 90% Tyus, which means my overlap is incredibly heavy. And I'm good with that. They're cheap prices, who's going to get the shots, all those fun things sort out with this.
Yeah, I think, like you said, EMac, you should be playing at least 80% of Tyus Jones tonight. And that naturally means you're going to have some overlap with some other Grizzlies pieces. So I'm totally fine with playing a bunch of Bane and Jones in the same lineup. And, you know, Jaren Jackson Jr., who I continue to stand for.
All right, we got those in just under the wire. We got 2 minutes to go. I'm playing my Yahoo is Van Vliet, Braun, McCollum, Brown, Jackson, Najee Marshall, Domantas Sabonis, and Willie Hernan-Gomez. The only guy I'm sad I didn't get to was Embiid. I couldn't quite make it work. But all my lineups are in across 3 sites. Whoopah. 67% trusted me to do this. Now, technically, though, on FanDuel, I did not play the first game. So I guess if we want to say technically, no, my lineups did not fully get in, but I'm okay with that.
Producer Jordan throwing shade in the chat. I love it.
Oh, producer Jordan, this is what happened. Jordan, did you get a nap between the early morning show and this show? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. You got to get those naps in. Makes life that much better. Oh, Brandon, you're going for another 300 seconds there. Going for another. Okay, you message him back. And we are just about at lock here. This is going to be a good time. Matt, this is going to be a good time. You know what we got starting at 6:30 tomorrow? It's that 6:30 a.m. You're going to get the process with Josh Engelman.
6:30 a.m.
Yes, you only acknowledge one 6:30 per day, and it ain't that one, is it?
We have content on this channel at 6:30 a.m. Who produces?
Oh, Josh does a whole thing. He does cheers with coffee. He gets about 200. I haven't looked at it in a couple of weeks. He gets a couple hundred concurrent watching it. It's kind of fun. He just goes there and goes through all the rotations. And if I'm up early, I'll have it on in the background if I'm answering emails and stuff for the day job. So. I
think the last time I saw 6:30 in the morning was because I was up from the night previously. I can't tell you the last time I've woken up at 6:30.
Unless it was from a nap and you were ready to go get dinner, right? That 6:30.
Oh, that's a good 6:30. That's the real 6:30.
All righty, but all day content tomorrow. It's Super Bowl week. We got all sorts of exciting stuff coming up for that. You guys are going to want to check all that stuff out there and play around with the lineup generator. That's something I didn't have a chance to talk about today, but it's fun. You can build out showdown lineups. It allows you to choose from different game scripts now. It's a new feature they've put in there. That's for football. I'm sure they will be turning their attention towards that for the NBA playoffs, which we are now 65% through of the regular season. This is we're completing. I think this is week 17, if I remember correctly, of the NBA. So about 6 more weeks left before we get to the real NBA season. Should be fun. March Madness coming up. We had golf this weekend, got NASCAR in a couple hours, MMA overnight last night. We're in full swing here. We're in full swing. You ready? Are you ready for this? You ready for the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I mean, It takes roughly 2 weeks to go through all the prop offerings that are available across the industry. That's the real reason why there's the bye week. It's just so it gives us all enough time to read all the available offerings.
There certainly are a lot. And I'm now going to go downstairs and have some Super Bowl food because my wife, God love her, she thought the game was.
There you go. EMac Super Bowl party.
Oh, she's going to send a little note to the commissioner asking why she was not alerted of the 17th game that was added to the regular season that pushed it back. She's like, isn't it? It's never by Valentine's Day. That's when you have the NBA All-Star break, right? She knows these things, right? Because she's like, you're taking me, or we're doing something. We don't always go out. But you're doing something for me. So there we go. All righty. We're going to get on out of here. Thank you to producer Jordan for producing the show. Thank you to Matt LaMarca for joining us. You can find him on Twitter at Matt LaMarca. You can find me at EMac DFS. And of course, it's Stokastic _COM. With that, gamers, good luck.